Should those in charge of running the UK be taking any kind of a break at this kind of time of crisis?
With the country on the brink of a recession and the real prospect of water shortages, both the Prime Minister and the Chancellor have been away. So is it better that they recharge their batteries, or should government ministers be staying put? Here's what some of you had to say.
We need a break, we need to refresh ourselves and reinvigorate ourselves.
Totally unacceptable, irresponsible, especially given the circumstances that we're currently living in.
I think they should, but they need to get the job done first.
Everyone needs a break, everyone needs a holiday, and my members of staff, if they didn't have a break and a holiday, they wouldn't come back all fresh and able to make the right decisions.
Bunch of wasters anyway, aren't they? They haven't got a clue what they're doing, so does it really make any difference?
If it's a big enough crisis, yeah, maybe they should come back, yeah.
OK, well, joining us now to talk about this is Nero Ughwujabo, former special advisor to Theresa May. He believes that MPs should not be going on holiday during this crisis, or any crisis. And political commentator Alex Dean, he thinks that we do need to care more about politicians' mental health, and they all deserve their summer break. Well, I've got to tell you, Mr Dean, your back is up against the wall on this morning, because we've just done a snap poll with our viewers, and well over 2/3 of them say that these guys should be at their desks and not splashing around in a pool. So there's not much public sympathy for their public health, is there?
Morning, Richard. Morning, Charlotte.
Morning.
I'm not surprised by that, although I was pleased by the comments that you got in your Vox Pops when people were going around saying, you know, they're like other people and we need to let them have a break. Look, we've got to step back a minute and say, what's the goal here? Do we want a set of dedicated public servants who are so tired they can't lift their arms? I mean, it's a bad idea to work people into the ground. I know in this country we love having a go at our members of parliament. There's almost nothing too bad we can't say about them. There's nothing too unpleasant we want them to endure. But it's really childish to expect MPs to be kind of different to the rest of us and work until they can't open their eyes. I mean, everyone needs a break, members of parliament included.
I was just going to say, Alex, you know, when you say what's the goal here, we're at a time of crisis at the moment. Isn't it exceptional circumstances? Don't we need them to be there, to be doing their jobs, to be sorting things out? We've got a message here from a viewer. Lisa's got in touch. I'm an NHS worker. During the first wave, I wasn't allowed days off because of the shortage of staff, people needing help. So how is it fair for them to give themselves wage rises, go and enjoy family holidays when working families can't afford a day out? So there is that situation, isn't there? At times of crisis, whatever job you do, sometimes you have to accept, OK, I've got to give up my holiday, I've got to postpone it and sort things out instead.
Yeah, that, I'm afraid, would mean that we would never allow MPs to have a holiday. Think of the last 3 years we've had. Tell me a fortnight when people wouldn't have maintained we were in crisis of one kind or another.
He's got a point, hasn't he, there? I mean, there's never a good time, is there, Nero, for these people to take their break? Would you accept at least the general thrust of that point?
No, not at all. I mean, I think MPs take breaks all the time, and no one is arguing that MPs should be prevented from taking breaks at any point. But the reality before us is that this is not usual times. This is not normal times at all. We are in a time of unprecedented challenges, and it's not a question of one challenge, it's a challenge across so many different fronts. And I think people are right to expect their elected officials to be on hand to tackle those challenges.
Well, we're going to be talking to Gordon Brown, former Prime Minister, former Chancellor, a little bit later on in the programme. And he this morning, in an article for I think it's the Daily Mirror, is saying that the Cobra Crisis Committee should be reconstituted now and meet every day to talk about this crisis, and there should be a full debate in the House of Commons. Commons should be recalled to talk about what we do in terms of an emergency budget to deal with the cost of living crisis. Presumably you'd support that?
I would. I think the reality of what we're facing at the moment is that these are, I suppose, crises that are not as obvious as, for example, if we were at war. But the reality is that we're approaching a winter of discontent, as many people have called it. And we're facing crisis across so many areas that are directly impacting on the lives of ordinary citizens across the country. And I think that is something that should absolutely concern our elected officials.
Yeah, Alex, isn't there an issue, a particular issue at the moment, that we do seem to be in a bit of limbo? You know, we've got this leadership debate, this leadership issue going on at the moment, the competition for who's going to be the next Prime Minister. No big decisions are being taken at the moment because of that. And there is that pressure saying, well, actually, don't we need to put in measures now to be able to get the action, get the results later? We have this whole situation currently where people are going on holiday. There doesn't seem to be any delegation. Nobody seems to be saying anything, speaking to the country to reassure them or say that plans will be put in place.
There's always been a situation in Westminster where some ministers are on duty. Just because Parliament's not sitting doesn't mean the government doesn't function. But I'm more interested in this kind of the thrust of this argument that effectively, if there's an issue going on, MPs can't go away at all. And it seems strange to me because just at a time when we're talking more and more about the importance of rest and work-life balance and people's mental health, we apparently want our MPs to be worked until they drop. And my point is, Charlotte, it's a bad idea. It produces bad outcomes because people under pressure and stress over very long periods of time can either rest a while or they can keep going on energy drinks and adrenaline and supplements and then make bad decisions. Well, that's great. But we've got to get out of this sort of weird sadomasochistic view of our members of Parliament.
No, they do have to have breaks. But when we take a look at, a specific situation, take last week, for example, when we had the announcement from the Bank of England over interest rates, the next day, obviously, as well. It's crunch point, isn't it? We've got soaring inflation. We've got the interest rates going up. We've got energy prices going up. It was that whole perfect storm. And yet we see the Prime Minister was on holiday, the Chancellor was on holiday as well, the Chief Secretary of the Treasury not at his desk. So when you look at the chain of events there doesn't seem to be anybody at the top who's actually taking responsibility and speaking to the public, speaking to the country about what's going on.
Yeah, I don't accept that. Government still functions, of course, even when an individual's on holiday. Government isn't dependent on one individual. But Charlotte, moreover, think about what you just said. Rising energy prices, interest rates and inflation spiking upwards. Most forecasts tell you we're going to have those things with us for not just a week or not just months and not just months to come. We're going to have it potentially for years. On the basis that you just set out, we would never allow our MPs to have a break. And I know that you saw it in the Vox Pops. People love to say our MP, they're all bent or they're all crooked. It's just so corrosive of the public space. It's so corrosive of public life for people to go around saying MPs are all bad uns, they're all wrong. And in the same way, it's corrosive to say they uniquely, unlike the rest of us, should never have a break.
I think I'm just looking through all the messages we've had on this from our viewers, and there is a definite collective view here that for those who agree with you, that politicians need a holiday, and now is the time of year to take one. Most people are saying that they should be staggered. Just as this programme staggers the breaks that the presenters and the rest of the team go away, so the programme keeps going out, they shouldn't all be away together. You just listed some key figures all away at the same time. Wouldn't you accept that perhaps it should be staggered more?
But they are staggered. That's why we have someone who fills in for the Prime Minister when he's away. Dominic Raab has been our Deputy Prime Minister for some time now, and I think people are increasingly accustomed to that. The Chancellor of the Exchequer isn't the only office holder in the Treasury Secretary. We have an Economic Secretary, a City Secretary, a Finance Specialist. So, we have people who perform functions in secondary roles, and government is just like any other organisation. It may be that the main person is away, but the department still carries on functioning. And that's my point. They do stagger their leave. They ensure that they're not all away at the same time. So really, actually, I'm not sure on that we disagree.
Nero, and what do you make of that then, that people are there in secondary roles, that, it is staggered, that those sort of responsibilities are covered?
No, I think it's clear to the country that there is a gap in leadership. And it's not just a question of the government. I think it's a question of Parliament as a whole. And I think the points that are being made are very clear, and I would support it ordinarily. But I think the fundamental point that is still missing is that we are facing significant crisis. And it's not a question of now, it's also a question of what is to come ahead in the winter.
OK, thank you both very much indeed for your points. Thanks for all your views as well that you texted in and taken part in the poll.